Okay. Thank you all for coming. I would like to ask Pastor Devin Krause from First United Methodist Church to lead us our invocation.
Good evening. Honored to be with you here tonight to open you all up with prayer. Let's pray together. Lord, we give you thanks for another week, another day, another opportunity to breathe in your grace and breathe out your praise. To see every opportunity to live life with a glass full of faith, hope, and love. For these educators and administrators and supporters of our schools, we pray for their spirits, that you would remind them of the goodness of who they are because of who you are. Give them opportunities to pause and take in. In the midst of chaos and the hustle and bustle, to be reminded that you are bigger than any storm we find ourselves in. Lord, we are not defined by our situation in front of us. We are defined by you. So help us all be symbols of hope and peace for all the teachers and students, for the decisions made today we know are important because they affect the lives of others. And we do not take that lightly, but grateful for the opportunity to serve this community. So lead us, God, in our speech and our action today and this week and weeks to come. Remind us of your presence here, and because of you, we can do more, we can be better, we can live more courageous than we first thought possible. Amen.
Thank you, Devin.
And with that, I'll call the meeting to order. Let the record show that all members are present, excluding Willa Joe Fowler. And that leads us to Student Pledge Leader. Okay.
All right. Okay.
Just get everybody.
Yeah, let's
Can I have everyone stand for a
presentation of the colors.
Colors.
No luck, Mr. Bartnett? Aw. All right, well, we'll just skip to our spotlight student from Enid High School, and Mrs. Cruz is going to introduce them along with one of the teachers.
Good evening. I am excited to introduce our spotlight student for Enid High School this month. This is Kevin Villalba and Villalba. His parents are Luis Villalba and Yuri Orozco. And I've actually asked Mr. Maples to come in and speak about why we chose him as our person. Mr. Maples actually nominated Kevin. And I will just tell you a little preview. Kevin's backup plan for life is medical school. His intention is to be a chemist, so he's got a bright future ahead of him, but I'll let Mr. Maples talk a little bit more about him.
Good evening. I'm Pete Maples. I teach social studies at the high school. I used to be a principal at a small district, and I swore I'd never go to another board meeting.
But here you are.
But for Kevin, I will. In my last hour Oklahoma history class, he's a junior. He's from Kansas, having to make up Oklahoma history. I had a young student who is Hispanic and speaks zero English, and I'm struggling to, find things. We're doing Google Translate and things like that, and I'm noticing Kevin's a really good student, really doing a great job, very friendly, very polite, and like the second week, I noticed that he's talking to her after class, and I go, "Hey, Kevin, can you translate for me?" And he did, and we got through a test and then another test, and I changed the seating where they're together so he can translate as we go. And then I get 2 more students that are straight from Mexico and speak zero English in that class, and he's kind of a hub of a wheel and does a great job of translating, but not giving them stuff. But and I don't know what I would do with that class without him. And all 3 of those young ladies that he's translating for are tremendous, intelligent young ladies. I speak enough Spanish to order at a restaurant sometimes, and they spoke no English, and their education is benefited by him. And I went to Miss Cruz and I go, "I need to do something for Kevin." She goes, "Nominate him for Spotlight." And so I did. He's I've been in this a long time. This is my 29th year, and I would put him on my Mount Rushmore so far for all those years. We got to finish a semester, but he's been a tremendous kid, and very proud to have him as a student.
Hello, my name is Kevin Villalba. I would like to start off by thanking Mr. Maples and Mrs. Cruz for electing me for Spotlight Student. This is my first year in Enid and my first year in Enid High School. It's been a very great experience so far. All the teachers are kind and respectful. I am currently in the academics team, and I enjoy that, being able to practice and soon compete. October 12th is going to be our first meet. And my experience has overall been fantastic. I couldn't have asked for a better school from a place I just moved to. I am very grateful for the opportunity to be here today.
All right. All right, well, let's get a picture. All right, Ms. Johnson, I believe our pledge leader student came in. Is that right, Roy? Yeah, bring him on up.
We'll let Mr. Bartnick come and
Yeah.
introduce his Spotlight student.
Good evening. I'd like to introduce the Spotlight student from McKinley. Okay, this is Kelsey Laura Martinez in 3rd grade in Ms. Durham's classroom. And she likes reading Captain Underpants and Dogman books. And then she'll tell you a little bit about herself.
All right.
I even brought the paper you wrote in case you forgot, okay? There you go. You just tell them what you wrote. Yeah, tell them about church. Just read right there. Enjoy.
I enjoy
Step up there close to the mic. There you go.
dancing and doing fun activities at home and other places. I like playing outside. Sometimes I like to ride with my bikes. Ride with my bike. And I really like playing soccer sometimes. And sometimes I try playing the piano.
Okay. All right. That's a good job. Thank you.
All right, very good.
And then I'm going to give you an award.
Step over there and get a picture, please.
Thank Kelsey.
All right, good job.
At this time, I'd like to introduce Doug Billiou to speak to the school board about synergistic and Mr. Steve Peck and his leadership for our district. So, Mr. Billiou, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. Steve, you want to come up here? 1991, Enid Public Schools, I don't know how many of y'all may be aware of this, but they entered into a partnership with what was Energy Education at the time. We are now called Synergistic. But our job is to work with school districts to help you be good stewards of your resources by helping you conserve energy and therefore being able to make the most, don't lose more money out of your utility budget than you need to, and that way it can be redirected back into your kids. Well, I'm here today because Steve's been with this program since the beginning in 1991, and as we were looking back over the history of that, in nearly 30 years, to our best calculation, Enid Schools has saved just over $8.5 million in that amount of time.
Wow.
And a lot of that goes to the efforts from Steve, and we wanted to recognize him, but also the efforts of the Enid Public School District, administrators like yourself in supporting that effort, as well as your staff. You have been excellent stewards of your resources here in the district over the years. And for that, on behalf of Dr. William Spears, the chairman and founder of Synergistic, I'd like to present you with the Chairman's Sustainability Award. And I will present that to Steve, and we will present that to you all as the district. But congratulations in this time of COVID. It's good to get a bit of good news.
Absolutely.
So I'm glad to bring that out. Congratulations.
And then it's my pleasure to also recognize Kristen Jones. Kristen, come on up here. Kristen is our curriculum director for Enid Public Schools, and she has been named the Language Essentials for Teachers of Reading and Spelling, the Letters, Literacy Champion. And she was nominated by her peers, by teachers in Enid that have enjoyed working with her and having her teach us. And I, as a former principal, can speak to the fact that without Kristen, my school would not have made the progress that it made. So very proud of Kristen and the job that she does for us. And so I want to say congratulations, Kristen. She didn't want to say anything.
All right.
Kristen's never at a loss for words. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. We appreciate the job you do.
And then I'm going to introduce Mr. Darrow, who has some other special thank yous on behalf of Enid Public Schools he and Jennifer will share.
Well, I just want to take the time and start this off by recognizing Dr. Todd Riley and his staff that are with us tonight. Earlier this year, they donated their time and efforts and gave 75 to 100 free physicals to some students at Longfellow Middle School this year, which, as you all know, is required to be active in athletics and extracurricular activities. So for them to have a free physical, get them active, get them going in sports, really made a difference for those students. And I'll turn it over to Mrs. Fields, and I'll get the certificates ready.
Okay. I just want to say thank you to Dr. Riley. I don't have much to say, but every time I ask him, he says yes. I don't even think he knows what he's saying yes to, but he says yes, and he says it every time. And so I just really appreciate that, and I know the kids do. And he has letters in his office from a couple years ago when he said yes. And so since I'm not in the classroom anymore, you still have letters that say yes. It's just from all the adults now. So thank you very much.
All right, Dr. Riley, come on up, and your staff as well. Yeah, come on up, and we'll get a picture.
Dr. Todd Riley is here with us. Thank you. And then Chris Terrapin. Chris came all the way from Woodward, correct? This evening? Awesome. Leslie Miller came all the way from Woodward as well. And Debbie Cozen. So again, thank you all for what you did. Thank you for being here tonight. And you definitely made a difference in our kids' lives this year.
All right, we appreciate it. Let's step over there and get a picture. Backdrop. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
All right, so that brings us to our audience to visitors, and we do have a few signed up. Just as a quick reminder, there is a 5-minute time limit on each, so we would ask that you adhere to that. Otherwise, if we're ready, Christina Fernandez.
Yeah, pull that. You can pull that mic wherever you need to.
Can you hear me now? Okay, thank you. First, I'd like to say aloha and good evening to the board members, fellow citizens of Enid, and the administration. My name is Christina Fernandez. I am the parent of a student attending Enid High School. It is also my place of employment and has been since 2012. I am a paraprofessional for the severe and profound class and also the high school's volunteer Special Olympics dance coach. I come tonight to speak on behalf of a silent group consisting of parents who have reached out to me with concerns and also my fellow coworkers throughout our school district. They are afraid to speak out due to repercussions and backlash they may face from our district and in our town. You should never be afraid to speak up, even if it goes against popular opinion, which I'm almost certainly sure this does. Cancel me if you want to, but I am a parent before I'm an employee, and I am entitled to speak up for my child and the children in our care from bell to bell. The Return to Learn plan was put into place to help safely reopen our schools and provide a healthy learning environment for all students in Oklahoma. Guidelines were issued and recommendations were made. In-person, alternative, and virtual options were made available to all families in our district. Somehow, it got assumed by a group of individuals that the in-person option was solely for them and their children, and that everyone else who wants masks or has worries, fears, and pre-existing conditions should just hide at home and go virtual. I, as well as many other parents, were under the impression before the start of school that the AB schedule was in place because it's assumed that some in-person schooling was better than none, a safer alternative. But people stepped in and pushed to have it removed instead of adjusted as suggested in an earlier meeting. They wanted all or none, which I get. I'm a parent too. I also want my child in school. I am not able to explain 11th grade math or science, and home studies is not ideal for all students. But at the time, it is a safer option given the global pandemic. We were all told that it was not going to be a normal or routine school year, and as parents, we were asked to make plans for each scenario just in case. At every single meeting, someone shows up and speaks out against the use of masks in our school buildings, as is their right to. We get it, you don't like the masks. None of us do. Now I'm hearing that they would like to do away with COVID testing, color charts, quarantines, and school closures. Again, those guidelines and health officials put those tools in place to stop and slow the spread, not eliminate, but slow it down. What I'm not sure has been taken into account is that there are other opinions. Up until now, the other group has just been the most vocal. I've emailed every single one of you regarding this, and I've received a few replies, one being from Dr. Floyd, in which he assured me that this was not on the radar for EPS. I've watched our enrollments drop since opening day because some of our parents have lost faith that the district is going to operate in a safe and healthy manner. Class sizes have again needed to be altered to accommodate for the virtual load. I have watched the school board walk back and eliminate options that could have been beneficial if given a chance. The health department, as well as other parents, have come before you and asked that you stop messing with the chart and asked that you do not give in on the issue of masks. Doing away with masks is not in the best interest of the special needs population and the population of the staff who have chosen to continue working for you despite having pre-existing conditions themselves. They, like me, are also entitled to a safe and healthy learning and working environment. If we do away with masks, the chart, or both, you open us up to quarantine after quarantine with no split schedules and no buffer between the numbers of positive cases in our classrooms. The students and the staff are going to be subjected to the safety protocols anyway, regardless of how you decide to vote, because the health department is still the health department. Excuse me. Unfortunately, you cannot vote away the virus, but you can choose to vote away the last few protections that we still have in place. We are doing the very best we can here, and please do not make it any harder. Man-made or not, COVID-19 is real. It's in our town, and just like the flu, it can kill people. Older and special needs, but still people nonetheless. As it stands now, since the first day of school, I've had to take 3 COVID tests and have already been required to quarantine once so that I could safely return to my classroom. Other staff members have had to do the same as well, and it's only September. Our quarantine pay is on a sliding scale. At this rate, we cannot afford to do away with charts and masks. Certain staff members, depending on who or where they work in these buildings, would be pro bono by Christmas, considering the amount of times we would be required to quarantine due to possible and repeated exposure to COVID-19. So I ask that you please consider all of the students in the district, regular ed and special. I ask that you consider the safety and the health of all the staff that work in the buildings. And finally, I ask that you consider the other parents like myself who understand that this is a pandemic and that tough and unpopular choices may need to be made in order to provide a safe learning environment for everyone. Thank you for allowing me to speak. As always, go Pacers and Plainsmen, go Big Blue.
Ms. Fernandez, you dropped something right on your way up. It's right over there on the ground. Thank you. You're welcome. Dr. Floyd, I have a question on an item that she brought up around the sliding scale on the quarantine pay.
On what?
She said there was a sliding scale in place for pay during quarantine.
Sliding scale?
That's what she referred to, yes.
Yeah, she also referred to a lot of the rumor mill that is strictly rumor. I mean, it was never my intention, nor has it ever been, to change the color-coded system or the mask mandate. Not really sure where all that rumor started, but never even really been a discussion.
So, Dr. Robertson, I don't know if you can speak. Is the pay standard on quarantine versus?
Oh, you're talking about pay?
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead, Sam.
There is a difference there. If an individual is quarantined because of the school district, it's 100% of their pay. And we are going to, if those 10 days expire, we're going to allow that to go another 10 days with school-approved administrative type of leave. If you're quarantined because of something that happens outside of the school district, you are allotted 10 days for that. There has been no adjustment for the school district to make an allotment for that if it happens away from the school district.
So your answer to your question is there's an additional 10 COVID days that we didn't have before.
But it's the same rate of pay as if they were.
The only time the rate of pay changes is if, say, your child goes to Pioneer. Pioneer has to quarantine their school district. We're still in school, and you don't have child care for your child. You're given 10 COVID days at 2/3 of your pay. That's a situation that's beyond Enid Public Schools control. It's beyond the parents' control. So that's 10 days at 2/3 pay if it's outside, if it's a child care related issue, or the care of another individual in your household. So that's the only difference, full pay to 2/3 pay on that.
I'd like to address the confusion about the mask mandate and color coding system if I can. I think that people are confused because we have it listed in our agenda as a possible action, if any, which I am grateful for, because if things have been trending in a good way, numbers have been going down, but if that were to change, I like that we have the ability as board members to potentially tighten restrictions if need be. That's why there is the possible action, is actually so that if things get worse, we as a board can decide, are we still happy with how things are going, or do we need to make a change? And I appreciate everything that you're going through with your job, everything that all of our staff members are going through. There is no way that any of us sitting up here can possibly imagine what your day-to-day job looks like right now. So I appreciate you, and I appreciate your words. I think that's where the confusion is. I don't think that that has been communicated.
Yeah, and I probably can clarify that for everybody right now. This item is probably going to be on the agenda for the foreseeable future, just for all the reasons that Amanda just mentioned. So just because it's on the agenda doesn't mean there's any plan for drastic changes, but it'll be an item on the agenda for the next several months for us as administrators to bring information forward as to where we are and what we're doing. And then, as Amanda said, if there were to be significant fluctuations one way or the other, well, then we can discuss it at each monthly board meeting and go from there. But just because it's on there doesn't mean there's any change to what we are currently doing. And as I mentioned earlier, it's not my plan to recommend any changes for tonight.
And I would like to address an issue that the young lady spoke of about class sizes. And feel free to, Principal Cruz, to address this too if you'd like. But what do you see the changes in your teaching environment? Are they affected adversely by the size of your class?
Dudley, you probably can speak to class size leveling that we've already done.
Sure. That's something that we have constantly massaged the schedule and massaged the staff and pulled teachers in and out of smaller class sizes and closed them and made them virtual teachers. We worked very closely with Mrs. Cruz as well as the other 3 middle school principals as well. That's an ongoing challenge to try to monitor the kids that have chose to go virtual and now are coming back. I feel very comfortable in Eaton High School's class sizes. We've tried to balance that with the classrooms, particularly the science labs are some of the larger classrooms, so we felt like we could get 25 to 26 in there and still space out, as opposed to some of the smaller classrooms in the main building were traditionally just physically smaller, so we limited that to the 15 to 20 class sizes. So again, it's an ongoing shuffle as we've had a lot of kids come back from the virtual. They're not being very successful at home online, so we've got to monitor and adjust that staff, and I feel very good about it thus far.
All right, Sarah Reed.
Thank you for your time and commitment.
Pull that mic toward you, if you will, please. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you for your time and commitment to our community. I'm a hairstylist here in Enid. I have the pleasure of talking to many different men and women every day. Nurses, teachers, parents, small business owners, the list goes on. With that being said, I get a lot of different outlooks on COVID-19. Every healthcare worker I've talked to says that this virus is not what the media is making it out to be. What is more dangerous than this pandemic is the mental health of all ages declining due to quarantine. They are seeing young children with heightened anxiety and stress. Nurses are seeing lower oxygen levels in those who frequently wear masks, pulmonary staph infection from dirty mask wear, and higher CO2 levels. Masking healthy people is causing more harm than good. Chisholm and almost all the surrounding schools are staying in school, no level red. Red level is causing unnecessary stress on parents, students, and teachers. Every Friday, we are on edge, praying our children will remain in school. You should be looking at the individual school cases rather than the community numbers. Most people know the numbers are inaccurate. False positives, people registered to get tested, then never do, but still get sent a positive, counting back probable cases since March. The CDC said that only 6% of COVID deaths in the U.S. are actually COVID. The rest all have underlying conditions. Also, that we should not be including asymptomatic cases in the numbers. If you decide to shut down the district because we go to red level, most parents are not going to sit idly by waiting for school to reopen. They will transfer to a surrounding school who is proving they will stay open. Most who choose to go virtual if Enid's school shut down will not be going with EPS virtual learning. There are not enough Chromebooks for EPS students. I have heard from several parents who have been virtual since August that they are not happy with the EPS system. There is lack of communication, trouble loading external apps, non-engaging, and many other issues. They are choosing to switch to Epic, therefore EPS will lose even more funding. You have allowed 10 extra days for teachers and students due to quarantine. What happens to the classes who have already quarantined and in 2 weeks will have a case, so they will have to quarantine again? When does it stop? Why are we shutting down classrooms left and right due to a virus that has a 99% recovery rate? You are harming our children's future by treating school like an option. This generation will be our future nurses, doctors, leaders, etc. They will be taking care of us. Don't you want them to have the correct education they need to succeed? Online schooling just doesn't cut it for most families. A lot of children need in-person learning. Most parents are not educated to teach their children, otherwise everyone would have been at homeschooling already. If quarantined, my children will be going to my grandmother's. Most parents will utilize grandparents if children are not in school. If you shut down school, children will still be in extracurricular activities. It just does not make any sense to me why you would ever have a district-wide shutdown. We need to show our children that school is important and not something that fluctuates constantly. Walmart, Lowe's, and hospitals never shut down, and we have never seen an increase of COVID in these workers. Life must go on. Children need consistent in-school learning. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Brenda Friesen.
Good evening. My name is Brenda Friesen. I'm a third grade teacher here in the district. It has been a really tough start to the school year. Teachers have been burdened with many things beyond the norm. I'm here to express some thoughts as a teacher against the mask mandate. I personally do not like teaching in a mask. I feel like I'm not able to fully carry out the job that I've been hired to do. It's hard to keep the students' attention. I can't express my emotions with my facial expressions. It's hot, it's hard. I'm sure you can relate. But I'm not here because my job is hard. I love to teach. The bigger problem is the disservice it is to our students and their parents. Every conversation in the elementary classroom is a language learning experience. But that language is blocked by masks. The vital pronunciation that students need to learn is hidden behind fabric. And I'm not talking about the phonics lesson that may last 20 or 30 minutes. I'm talking about the all-day, everyday conversations that envelop language learning. ELL students, hearing-impaired students, autistic students, speech-impaired students, regular students, all students. I know you as a board have made decisions to try to keep students and staff from getting the virus by requiring us to wear masks in the schools. But please consider the vast number of students who are not able to make the growth in the area of learning language, in reading and speaking. As we look at how many students have actually gotten the virus, let us consider what is the greater need of the children we serve. I would desire and even ask that you consider dropping the mask mandate in the schools. If that is not the consensus of this board, would you at the very least give teachers and students more flexibility when it comes to the mask issue? Let us remove masks within the classroom. Let us do the job you've hired us to do. Let us teach these kids and meet their needs. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
You turn your mic on.
All right, I appreciate everyone's
Was that everybody?
willingness to come out and speak. Any other thoughts from the
Did we
board?
get them all? Yep. I thought we had 4, just 3. Oh, okay.
If not, that brings us to superintendent's report.
All righty, thank you very much. Board members, you have several items at your place on this first item that, as I mentioned earlier, will be on the agenda for the foreseeable next few months at least. But the first item you have there at your place is an item that our head nurses sent me last week, and I just wanted to bring it to your attention so that everybody understands this new I think it's new guidance from CDC, and that is that, I'll just read it to you quickly. Anyone who has had close contact with someone with COVID-19 and who has developed COVID-19 illness within the previous 3 months and has recovered and remains without COVID-19 symptoms does not then need to be quarantined or stay at home. So that's guidance that CDC sent out last week, and I just wanted to share that with you. I did verify that with our county health department, and then today I was on a Zoom call meeting with the 2 hospital CEOs, and they both confirmed that as well. So I just want to share that with you. As I said earlier, it is not my intent, nor has it been, to recommend any changes to our current plan tonight, so my recommendation is to stay with what we've been doing. The next item you have at your place, board members, says indicators for dynamic school decision making. That also is a document that our head nurses sent me late last week, and I guess it was Wednesday, because I happened to be on a Zoom call with the state superintendent that same day. And I guess that was the day that this came out from the CDC. And I'm only giving this to you as a document to take home and read, because I haven't been able to spend much time with it yet. But I did bring it up in the Zoom conference I was in with the state superintendent and some of the other State Department leaders, and I asked them if they had seen it, and they said they received it that day as well, so they didn't have any recommendations one way or the other. But the reason I'm giving this to you today is that I anticipate that the State Department of Education will be looking at this document and deciding if they see the need to make any changes moving forward. But they had not had it long enough to even read through yet when I was in my Zoom conference. So just wanted to give you that document today in case we have to refer to it at a later time, or if you see the state board reviewing it and having it on their agenda at their next meeting, you'll know what they're referring to there. All righty. So I believe that's all I have on our reentry plan, and I'll pause there to see if any board members have anything before we move on to the next topic. All right, hearing none, I wanted to ask Dr. Robinson to say a word about how we are utilizing TPI staffing.
We have are entering into an agreement with TPI Staffing. They provided their first employee to us that started today at Longfellow. We're primarily looking at using them right now in child nutrition to make sure that our child nutrition program doesn't go without cooks and servers in our schools. As you know, we've had some instances where the sites have been pretty low on employees in that area because of COVID exposure and different things. So TPI can provide us that temporary staffing. It's pretty reasonable. It doesn't have to force us to go out and hire additional staff that we'll have to keep on for the full year, to where we can hire them on a temporary basis. And if we have a long-term absence, then we can, of course, acquire that person from TPI, and they can then become an EPS employee if that's where we need to go. So it's just started today. So I'm really looking forward to this working relationship we're going to have with TPI and Enid Public Schools.
I appreciate Darren James and TPI staffing helping us out there. This is actually a topic that Amber and I had over the last couple of years as to whether or not we could utilize them to help fill some needed gaps. So here's an opportunity that we feel like they can, and they've stepped forward and agreed to help us out with that. So I'm hopeful it'll be win-win.
Yeah, I think so.
Any questions on that? All right, next, Dr. Robinson also, I've asked him to say a word about the new federal guidelines that were rolled out here recently about the free and reduced breakfast and lunch being extended for everybody through December.
The USDA released funding for all school districts to provide free breakfast and lunch to all students. We also are providing free lunch to all children who are 18 and under the seamless summer option. As you guys are all familiar with, beginning in the summer, students can go to a campus, pick up a meal. That is basically the option that we're operating under right now. So students who are children, I hate to say students, children who are not in attendance with Enid Public Schools can still pick up a free lunch at Central Kitchen, just as our virtual students are doing at no charge. And that is good through December 31st. If that gets extended, we will get that information out just as soon as we get it. So it was a really good surprise to all of us and a really good benefit to our students and our parents at the same time. So.
Also on that Zoom call I was on Wednesday with State Superintendent, there was the, I believe it's Webster, a lady named, last name Webster, runs child nutrition at the State Department, was asked the question, did she anticipate that that would get extended at the federal level past December? And she said everybody she's talked to at the federal level is not anticipating that that is going to get extended. Of course, who knows what's going to happen between now and December, but at least that was her take on that. So, any questions for Sam on that topic? I think that's very helpful for a lot of students, and we appreciate the feds rolling that out.
Dr. Floyd, can I say something on that? For everybody that's listening out there, we still need free and reduced lunch applications turned in. That does affect our federal programs and could substantially affect our federal programs. If families think, well, I'm just not going to fill it out because I'm already getting the meal, it means more to our district than just meals. We need that for a lot of the help we get in some of our, well, in all of our schools at the elementary and middle school levels.
Yeah, good point. So we would encourage everybody that is ordinarily used to filling that out, even though this free breakfast and lunch has been rolled out by the feds, we still need you to complete that and submit it, because A, eventually this is going to run out, and B, we need that for federal funding.
I want to make a comment to Mr. Rader. Does that funding for those meals and everything, does that have anything to do with our allotted funds that we receive through the census?
I'm not 100. It doesn't in this situation, no. We get our federal funds based solely on our free and reduced lunch counts, and the census has more to do with other federal funding that comes to the city. And I mean, obviously, it does affect the schools as well, but ours is more directly tied to the free and reduced lunch count. But it is highly important for everybody to do their census.
Yes, we certainly want to encourage everybody to do that as well.
We need all of that done as well.
I can answer the census question for you. There is comparability between the census data and what we submit paperwork-wise. It's kind of a checks and balance, and that's why completing the census is just as important as completing the free and reduced lunch application, because of that comparability that does happen with those documents.
Well, there'll be another push in December rolling out free and reduced lunch applications like we did at the beginning of the year, because that might capture more people that maybe have been riding the free and reduced train or the free meal train, and then they're ready to re-up.
The importance of free and reduced lunch applications for the school district is October 1st. And so while we can do another push, we can take those applications at any time, but any application that's not in the system by October 1 is really to the benefit of the student. Mm-hmm. Any application that we have in October 1 is to the benefit of the student and the school district.
Yeah.
And so, yes, we're always taking applications and always giving them when needed. But the big push is right now, so we can get those applications in and get those students in those applications counted by October 1.
And we're taking those applications from virtual students as well, because they have the opportunity to pick up free lunch?
We are. The virtual students were actually mailed an application, or when they came through IT, were handed one with their device.
I've said this before, but I'll reiterate it this year. I like our digital flyer sharing. I think it's awesome, but for something as important as this, because it does affect our funding, it might be great to send home paper copies. I mean, I don't know if we have time to do that now, but just in the future, because that is sometimes the only way you capture.
With free and reduced lunch forms, we always send those home.
Oh, great, good.
The scary thought this year is that because people know we're getting free lunches through December, that there just might not be that haste to get it back or the motivation to get it back. And we really, that October 1 deadline is we need it.
Okay, so we're sending physical applications home to virtual students.
Right.
Call me crazy, but I doubt they're going to make a trip up here to turn it in. Most likely.
We did self-addressed stamped envelopes back to the school district, and we've received a lot of.
Did you do that for every virtual student? Because my kids are virtual and I didn't receive anything like that.
Should have. I mean, that was the plan, and I know we stuffed envelopes and sent stuff home for several days.
What percentage have we got back?
I would be lying if I told you that's all come through. It comes back into the office and sent right back over to child nutrition. So I don't have that number.
Somebody's got to be tracking that.
I would take a good stab at it just from looking at the stack that was sitting in Randy's office, that we're sitting somewhere between 70 and 80% return on virtual students. I mean, it really surprised me because I thought, well, with a self-addressed envelope, if you get half.
So Randy's not processing it in time, is what I'm hearing.
No, Randy is not processing that form at all because that's
what
Randy's
got till October 1,
okay?
Randy's been focused on the Calvert and the virtual.
Yeah.
There you go. It's been good. So I'm happy with it.
I have a detailed question. Does this cover all food available? Like middle school and high school, we have many options, or is it just one style? Anything we have?
It covers every food except for like the ice cream, the bottled drinks at the high school. There are some a la carte items at the high school that don't fall into that, but it's almost the high school is the biggest option. Almost everything you get at the high school is covered under this, except for those handful of a la carte specialty items that don't fall into that. So your middle school student, all three of their lunch options are covered under that.
Okay. I know this has been a lot of extra work for you guys, it sounds like, and I know it's kind of scary not knowing that how many of those forms we'll get back or if we'll capture everyone. But what a fantastic relief for our families who, like, a lot of people are struggling financially right now. So thank you guys for doing that extra work to make sure we could do that. That's awesome.
I will give you a number just in case you guys, we're over 6,000 students right now on free or reduced. Now, the problem with that is there's carryover from last year still. And that's what we're sorting through right now is who actually has submitted application and who hasn't that's on carryover. And those letters are going out. They started going out last Friday, and they're going out this week of please complete an application before you roll off of free and reduced. So there is a ton of effort, not only from that office, but across the district to get that information to students.
And correct me if I'm wrong, the carryover and the issues we've had in the past, say, year, 2 years, is predominantly high school. That's the major gap we have of people who should be filling it out that aren't, and then so we are not getting we're having a negative fund balance, and it's predominantly at the high school was where that's occurring.
I would say that statistically across the nation, that is a very accurate statement. That the older the kids get, the harder it is to track down the forms. So I think Enid High School is very much in line with other large schools across the district, but that is true.
All right, next item I have is a reminder about our school board training that we've asked OSSBA to come here rather than us having to travel somewhere. So a week from this Wednesday, on September 30th, we will have dinner here for the board members starting at 5:30, and then we will start our training at 6. It says 6 to 9, but I anticipate we'll get out of there before then. But look forward to that, and I believe everybody has informed Carol that they are planning on coming. Is that right, Carol?
Will there be, kind of like at the regional meetings, will there be any sort of pre-training before we eat and then additional, or if we choose not to come for dinner, can we just show up after whenever it's supposed to start at 6?
Yeah, you can show up at 6.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll eat your part if you're not here. All right. Next item you have at your place is what Billy Tips, our athletic director, has worked hard on gathering information from other districts about how they are handling home football crowds and ticket sales, etc. And I know we sent this to you earlier, board members, via email, but I've asked Mr. Darrow to hit the highlights of this for us.
Well, quickly, we've learned a lot. This will be our 4th game, so we've learned from going to Medill, learned from going to Lawton, going to Ponca City, and then just like every other high school across the country, we're battling this right now. And just like to report back to you that our max capacity estimate at Selby Stadium is 7,850, so 7,850 seats available. Mr. Tips talked to him multiple times about this topic, and he estimates we'll be really close to 2,350, so that'll be about a 30% capacity. So if we would get to 30%, then we will still have plenty of room to space out and social distance. I will guarantee that after this first game, we'll have some changes and we'll make some modifications, just as we've done with every activity and event. But one thing that we're very passionate about is trying to recognize these seniors in all 4 sports, palm, cheer, band, and football, and also the trainers too, part of the football team as well. So trying to recognize as many of our seniors as we possibly can, because as we all know, there's no guarantee tomorrow or next week. So looking forward to a good opportunity, and Mr. Tips has done an outstanding job in my opinion thus far.
Any questions? All right, thank you, Dudley. And the last item I have for you, board members, I was going to mention our enrollment, currently at 7,452. And you might say, well, how does that compare with how we ended the year last year? Of course, that's really kind of nebulous too, because we actually, you could say, well, we ended our enrollment at March of last year, but that was 7,774. So if you do that calculation, that's about 300 students less than we ended the year with last year. So in talking with other districts, doesn't really matter the size of the district, but everybody is experiencing the same thing due to COVID. So that's the deal on enrollment, and that's where we currently stand. And then the last item I have on
Dr. Floyd?
Oh, yes, sir.
Sorry, just to go back one to the football attendance.
Okay.
I don't see anything regarding our color levels. Is this the intent that this is the policy regardless of level?
Well, no, this is just for this week. If we go to red, we're not playing football.
Right, but or let's say, hopefully, we get down to green in 2 weeks. Does this still apply, or?
Well, just as Dudley said, this is probably going to change from week to week depending on the color we're at.
Okay.
So this is just for this week. Alrighty. And the last item I have, you've got some pictures there, board members, but we also are going to shoot these pictures up on the screen. This has been talked about for some time now, especially by the Allen family and the McLaughlin family and others that are really interested in developing the soccer complex that will be called Advanced Food Soccer Complex out by Walmart. And our soccer teams will benefit from that eventually when it all comes together. But there are some really, we finally do have architectural renderings now of what that will look like. And I've given you copies of that, hard copies here, but Mark is going to shoot those up on the screen for us as well. So this is kind of the entrance into the complex, and there will be a championship field in there that'll be turfed, I believe, and that'll be the main marquee project, but then there'll be several other fields designed around that. So that's an aerial view of what it will look like, and the design and the intent is to have fields, a number of fields there, such that youth soccer and then older student soccer can all be held there in a timely manner and in a functional manner, and one that it'll be very positive and beneficial for the community and the students of our community, or youth of our community. Is that yeah, I believe that's the last one. So just wanted to give you kind of a visual of what that might look like when it comes together, and we are so very appreciative of the Allen family's interest in that and making sure that that comes to fruition, and I have no doubt that it will. It's just a matter of timing. All righty, I believe that is the extent of my superintendent's report, Mr. President.
All right, thanks, sir. That brings us to regular business. Item 4, we can take item 4A, 1 through 10. Do I have a motion?
Move we approve.
Motion by Colin.
Second.
Second by Tori. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion carries. Item 4B, discussion and possible action to approve the district's financial report. Dr. Robinson.
Well, in this month's financial report, I really want to talk about midterm in January more than I want to talk about where we're currently at financially, because currently we're in a pretty good financial pattern. Revenue's coming in just as normal. We're paying bills just as normal. Things are pretty normal with the exception of some additional expenditures we have regarding COVID-related PPE, those disinfectants, those kind of things. So this is all projection. This is nothing that's been formally said, nothing formally mentioned. It's speculation, projection only. But we're currently on track to spend $300,000 to $700,000 more this year than we did last year. That could change. There could be more expenditures depending on how the fall goes. There could be fewer expenditures depending on how things go. The other part of that is the midterm allocation. When we talk about enrollment, the big question across the state is, where have all the students gone? Because we are not alone. While we might be down 350, there are other districts that are down 1,000 students. There are other districts that are down 1,500 students. For instance, I just had a message today from another school district. They're down 800 students. They know that 500 of them have gone to some other type of school, but where did the other 300 go? That's the big unknown. And so with that, remember our funding it's established. This is how much money we have to spend. Depending on where those students shift, where that movement is where that funding goes. So while our piece of the pie might be this big today, come January, it could only be this big. And when you look at that across the state, our funding factor could be reduced by $50 to $70 a student is what is being looked at right now based on current drops from the biggest school districts in the state. $50 to $70 for Enid Public Schools is over $1 million in funding. So we could, this school year, be deficit spending $1.7 million with a midterm allocation drop and additional expenses we have related to COVID. Again, this is all speculation. This is not definitive. It's really just to give you guys information of where we're sitting at today, what's being looked at, and the bad news to come. But the good news is we have a really good fund balance. And that's what that fund balance is for, because it could truly be pouring come January. And that's why we have our money set aside to take care of those kind of things. If that does happen, there are going to have to be some very tough decisions made in the spring, which you guys will be a part of, administratively be a part of, but we'll really have to look internally at what are we looking at in FY22. Because you have to remember, this fiscal year, the state had a really good revenue stream come July with late income tax collections. People didn't pay their income tax in April, so right now our revenue collections are looking really well. That revenue collection come April, when people pay their taxes, their income taxes, it could look vastly different going into next fiscal year, especially with the legislature meeting this year. And so some really hard conversations could come up. To what I'm telling you is we cannot continue to deficit spend another $1.7 million into FY22. It's really a one-time spend it now, take care of our students, take care of our needs. If we do deficit spend, it's going to have to be much less than that, because who knows when the next big storm is going to be coming at us. So I'm just giving you guys that. I don't like giving you bad news, but I've always told you I'm going to give it to you like it is, and this is where we're sitting at right now on a speculation. And so
I have a quick question. I'm sorry.
Go
I
ahead.
didn't mean to interrupt. I'm
It's
just
all right.
trying to jump in. Can you expand a little bit on, because the money follows the student, correct? So explain just a little bit further, if you can, why the per student spending would go down in a situation like that, rather than we just don't get the money for those 300 missing kids.
The money follows a student in this regard. Say that our student growth was 400 students this year. Say we grew 400. We were sitting at 8,200 students. And if we were locked into the same dollar amount we had last year, we would have a funding shortfall because we wouldn't be able to pay the teachers that we had to hire to cover those students. So the state says you had a student growth, so your piece of the pie grows with that student growth. So that's where the funding follows a student. And so while we get a 3-year high average of students, the pie is this big. Those schools that grow, their slice increases. Those schools that are not growing or have, in our case, have went down, while your funding stays locked in at that weighted ADM, your piece of the pie drops. So that's where that funding factor really comes into play.
Okay, I
for
gotcha.
districts. So
All right.
that's the best way I know how to really
I understood
explain
the
it.
money flowing from place to place with the student, but that's where I was struggling.
We never want to lose money when we lose students, but we always want to get more when we go up. And so that's why there's that ebb and flow of the funding for school districts.
Dr. Robinson, I've got a question concerning the technology that has been made available to all the kids. You know, there is an adjacent hotspot device for that. And just to be honest with you, I've been hearing a lot of people speak to the efficacy of those hotspots. They complain about they're not working, or they work part of the time, or they're extremely slow. Is there any type of way linked to that portion of money that's allocated for those?
I can tell you this, and this is coming from Mr. Herbal to me, and if we need to get him up here to better explain it, we can. The hotspots were linked into 4 gigs of data a month, basically. And what we have found out is that with some of our, especially our elementary, our Calvert curriculum has a lot of video, a lot of pictures with it, that is really chewing down that 4 gigs of data. And so Mr. Herbal came to me, it was last week or 2 weeks ago, wanted to know if we could ramp up to basically kind of an unlimited plan for those hotspots that those people have said, we don't have it. And so the answer was yes. Turn it up for those that are really getting into the videos, really doing that. Because the other part of it is, my question was, were they watching YouTube? Are they downloading Netflix? But no, it's really coming from those educational. So to answer your question, we are addressing the slow speed of those hotspots. But it's as we kind of get that, to do it across the board, we're not seeing it across the board. So the cost for that is $10 a hotspot. So just to increase it across the board could be not a good use of our funds. Those students that are having those issues, those are the ones we're increasing right now. Those that we're seeing that they're already going through their 4Gs, those are being increased without them asking for it. So it is an issue. It is an issue, but hopefully it's an issue that is going away since we're increasing them to an unlimited plan.
Thank you.
All right. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed?
Did we have a motion?
Did we make a motion already? Okay, I'm sorry. There you go. Did we make a motion? Okay, sorry.
We still lost.
Motion by Colin.
I voted.
Second by Kyle.
I didn't
Sorry.
vote either.
Yeah. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Kyle.
That's a lot to go through. I know 1.7 million. Got to really.
Yeah, everybody
process.
has that on the brain
Yeah.
instead of the motion, yeah. But that is, I appreciate Sam's willingness to bring that information to you, because we all need to go into next fiscal year with our eyes wide open. And as I said earlier, we really don't know what's going to happen between now and December, but when the state does start rolling that information out, we will weigh that against what Sam just reported tonight. So appreciate the information. Thank you.
All right, let's go to item 4C, discussion and possible action to approve the district's annual estimate of needs for fiscal year 2021. Dr. Robinson.
Okay, the estimate of needs, that's our annual budget. We report it to the state. As you guys know, that budget usually doesn't stand. We end up adding to it or maybe even taking away from it, depending on how things go. But for the estimate of needs, what we're basically approving is a general fund allocation, which is what we'll operate off of for this fiscal year, of $75,630,826.91 for the general fund. The building fund will be $3,940,532.91. And I do want to make a quick comment about the building fund. It still has about $300,000 of insurance money off of our roof project that we're still paying those bills to make sure we don't have any more leaks. Those are all being addressed, so it's kind of holdover money for that contractor. So that's why that's a little bit inflated, in case you track that from year to year. And then, of course, the sinking fund, that's to pay our indebtedness on our bond funds, is $9,059,873.96. And so this, with your guys' approval, we'll have a lot of pages to sign, and then this will be sent to the State Department of Ed as soon as we finish it.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Amanda, second by Tori. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion carries. Item 4D, discussion and possible action to approve the Oklahoma State Department of Education's accreditation waiver for the Library Media Specialist Service at Glenwood Elementary School. Mrs. Johnson.
We have a library media specialist at Glenwood who is not a certified library media specialist. She has started her coursework to become a certified librarian, and so we have to apply for a waiver in order to have the accreditation and her services at Glenwood.
We'd recommend approval.
Do I have a motion?
Move.
Motion by Kyle.
Second.
Second by Tori. Any other discussion?
I have a question. So Ms. Lassiter would be full-time in this position? She's not dual role in any way?
She's full-time at Glenwood.
And is she in school now for her library media specialist?
Yes,
She
she's
started? I'm so
enrolled.
excited.
Yes.
I'm excited. That's wonderful.
She's enrolled.
That's great.
I have a question. Will the young lady be required to just work at that one school, or okay, so she won't be like...
Not shared.
She's not shared. She's just at Glenwood. Mm-hmm.
Say it again?
She doesn't share with another site.
She's at Glenwood the whole time.
Full-time.
So do we have to reapprove every year? Is it just a one-year waiver?
It's a one-year waiver for any situation like that.
Could be.
If that's how long it takes her to achieve that.
But we have to act on it every year until she gets
She
done.
has 3 years to get it done. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at the application, it's 3 years check.
I do think, Mr.
3
Abernathy, I do
years.
think you're right. I do think that it's a 3-year waiver. I think you have the option of choosing the 3. I haven't looked at the paperwork this year, but I think a couple of years ago they allowed us to do it for 3 years. And if that's what we checked on the application, then that's what we will do. So
we wouldn't have to take action on it
We
again
don't
next
have
year if
to.
she's not done. So
No,
this
that-
allows her to have the 3-year time period to get her
Yeah,
certification
that's a
done.
change that was made a couple of years
Yeah.
ago, and I think we have that
Okay.
option. And
Good catch. Thank
so-
you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Item 4E, discussion and possible action to approve the adjunct instructor status as follows by the Oklahoma State Department of Education for Sylvia Earhart, Enid High School Foreign Language. Mrs. Johnson.
and she is actually teaching 2 hours of American Sign Language. So she is adjunct at Enid High School 2 hours a day.
I move to approve the adjunct instructor status.
Second.
Motion by Amanda, second by Tori. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? And the motion carries. Brings us to item 5, new business. Dr. Floyd?
Nope.
Item 6, reports. Colonel Smith?
Nothing tonight, thanks.
Thanks, sir. Any board comments?
Just my continued thank you to every single teacher, every single employee, every single person in this district that's working to make this happen this year. Just continued thanks.
Yes, ma'am. Item 7, special meeting Wednesday, September 30th, here in the Administrative Service Building. Dinner at 5:30. Meeting starts at 6. Item 8, regular business meeting is October 19th at 6 here in the Administrative Building. And that brings us to item 9. Discussion and possible action to approve employment, terminations, purchase or appraisal of real property, and litigation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Tori, second by Colin. All those in favor? We are in executive session.
Should be pretty short.